Time now for the markets with Leighton Spann. Well, Mike, in a moment we find out what was impressive to one area ag economist about the recent cattle on feed report. Also ahead in the markets this week, the recent cattle on feed report, a somewhat bleak picture was painted for the U.S. hog industry also. Pond-bank catfish prices fall below $1 compared to a year ago, while growing stocks of grain keep the pressure on farm gate row crop prices. The USDA says the nation's feedlots are efficiently working through a larger inventory of cattle here in midsummer. Extension's Josh Maples also found something interesting and unusual in those latest placement numbers.
We actually saw lower placements in Texas and Nebraska, but the driver is the increased placements in places like Kansas and Iowa and most of the western states. So those states are seeing larger placements numbers and offsetting those lower placements in Texas and Nebraska.
Now, marketings of fed cattle, we come to that 1%, up 1% again in this report. Did the trade seem to think that was sufficient given the overall inventory?
Yeah, I continue to be impressed by marketings. And even though we know we have those larger inventories, we're continuing to work through those larger supplies of cattle. And we're doing it at pretty impressive rates given the amount of cattle that we have. And that's just a testament to our domestic beef demand and also our export market. You know, those two pieces, our demand pieces, are really continuing to help us have healthy marketing rates. Those are going to be really important as we approach Labor Day.
Meanwhile, traders imply that hard times are right around the corner for American pork producers. Tariffs mean too few foreign buyers and plenty of meat here for Labor Day and beyond. The large pork supplies may push farm gate prices down as low as $10 per head below the cost of farmer production cost.
We're going to have a lot of pork to basically digest domestically, because we're going to lose a fair amount of exports. We know we're losing exports to China with a 60% tariff there. We know we're going to be losing exports to Mexico. If we're not now, we will be doing it at some point. So we're going to have a lot of pork. But I don't know. I really do believe that the American consumer has a taste for beef. I don't think we're going to see a sharp drop in our beef demand, but it could cut into it a little bit, and that is a concern.
U.S. farm-raised catfish sales are up, but pond-bank prices, they're not. Checking out the monthly snapshot of the industry, prices paid to producers for premium-size live catfish are now below $1 a pound compared to 1 year ago. Farm sales totaled almost 30 million pounds round weight, an increase of 1% from this same time in 2017. Processor sales cleared 13 million pounds in June, a dip of 3.3%. Well, let's break for trivia before we go any further. We have a horse-related question for this week's quiz. Here it is. How does Mississippi rank nationally in terms of the number of barrel racers that live in the state? Is the answer A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, or D, 4? We'll have that answer coming up shortly. U.S. stocks of both corn and soybeans are increasing. Broker Nolan Cullen of Jackson says this is not a new development, but one that is putting the screws on the market, especially in this age of a trade war with tariffs.
Going into this marketing year, we had a large supply of row crops, particularly corn specifically, and also for soybeans, increasing significantly over the last several years. Obviously, the wild card has come along with tariffs, and prices are depressed now. The increase in stocks for both corn and soybeans is a negative factor. That means that the commercials have in their hands ownership of a significant amount of beans and corn. Should China divert their business to other places, or talks with Mexico about NAFTA relative to corn, should those go against us short term and have unknown consequences, I think there continues pressure in the row crop markets.
While there is no resolution in sight yet for the U.S. trade dispute with China and other countries, some market analysts are looking ahead and pondering what the soybean and other markets may do when that day finally arrives. One thing Sue Martin expects is fewer soybean acres planted in 2019.
I think we'll rally. We'll get a nice sharp rally. The thought is that you'll see less bean acres in 2019. That might help start stabilizing us. One thing we may see is that maybe we don't send as much beans out the door to China. Maybe we send soy meal. I think demand for meal is going to be very good. And of course, Argentina having an issue. And we also seen them in our export sales mix this week, where they bought corn, wheat, and beans.
We wrap things up here in the markets with our trivia answer. How does Mississippi rank nationally in terms of the number of barrel racers in the state? Well, the answer is D. Mississippi, 4th in the nation.